Hello and welcome to everyone joining us for today's webinar, How to Get Your Yellowslip, the Requirements and Processes. So my name is Laura. I will be presenting this morning. I'm originally from the UK and moved to Cyprus 3 years ago when I had to apply for the Cyprus Registration Certificate, or more commonly known as the Yellowslip. So I then went on to assist with recruitment and immigration services for Eltoma Corporate Services. So if you are thinking about moving or have recently arrived on the island, this guide will inform you of the processes and requirements to ensure a successful submission. So you'll notice the chat box on screen. If something is unclear or you would like more information on anything mentioned today, please don't hesitate to ask and I will respond after the webinar to the email you used to sign up. So today we will look at the specification and candidate requirements for a successful application, where to apply, the Civil Registry and Migration Department and their contact information, consequences of omitting to apply and the benefits of doing so, the full application procedure with tips, what documentation to bring to the appointment on the island do you need to apply, rights for dependents, family members when they're from an EU state or otherwise, also applications for self-employed, studying, retired or non-working applicants, and how long the Yellowslip document is valid for, and why it can sometimes be beneficial to use an agent. So it is straightforward to apply for a work permit in Cyprus if you are a citizen in an EU or EEA country or Switzerland. So the correct term for it is a registration certificate for EU citizens. It's technically a residency permit, which provides you the same rights as a Cypriot citizen. It's popularly known as the Yellowslip because it's printed on yellow paper. So applying for a residency permit is a process which is to be completed by every EU citizen living and working in Cyprus. So the procedure is renowned for being quite lengthy and fastidious. So I've heard horror stories about people being made to queue outside in 30-degree heat for over 2 hours. Personally, I found that complications only arose when incorrect documentation was supplied, and I found personally it didn't take me too long of a process really. So take notes of what is required throughout the webinar, ensure everything is in order before your appointment to avoid any delays by having to reschedule another appointment. So the qualifying criteria. Applicants are required to enter into a rental agreement or show means of long-term residency. So staying with a friend, for example, or somewhere temporary will not suffice. The applicant must also have full cover health insurance in the Republic, although this is not normally checked. The Cyprus authorities require the applicant or an agent on behalf of the applicant to be physically present for submission. And the general aim here is to determine the intention to reside on the island. So we're going to briefly look at the basic laws in Cyprus that oversee non-Cypriots from living, working and residing. The responsibilities of the immigration sector derive from a number of legal instruments, as well as policies set out by the Council of Ministers, the Ministerial Committee for the Employment of Third Country Nationals, and the Interior Minister. So these laws are harmonized with European law. This means that the European directives relating to the areas of free movement of citizens, immigration or trafficking in human beings have been transported to Cyprus law, and together they all form a part of it. So together these laws manage applications and issuing certificates of registration to union citizens and residence card to members of their family who may be third-party nationals, including any other general issues concerning immigration, so illegal immigration, sham marriages, solidarity funds, borders, that's more specifically with borders to the north of the island, judicial applications. So you can make a note of any of these to learn your rights if that's something that may interest you. So only the following documents ensure legal residency of non-Cypriots in the Republic of Cyprus. The MEU1 form, this is the Yellowslip application. There's also two others as well. So there's a registration of family members in Cyprus who are not EU citizens. So if family members are third country nationals, of course they have rights to live in Cyprus with the applicant. So this is a residency certificate called the pink slip, and the form for this is the MEU2 form, and this is issued to the non-EU family members of EU citizens moving with them to Cyprus. And this application must be made 4 months of the date of entry. But we will look briefly at this more towards the end of the webinar. And finally, the permanent residency card, which requires the MEU3 form. And this is for EU citizens who reside in the Republic of Cyprus for more than 5 years. And they may obtain permanent registration certificates. The application for permanent residence should be accompanied by various other documents to prove continuity of residence in the Republic of Cyprus, and is usually issued quite a long time after actually one year from the date of the application. So consequences of omitting to apply. So please note here that a residence permit is not required to actually begin or start working in Cyprus. An EU national may begin work before or while the residency paperwork is still in process. However, the employer and the employee may be fined if the application for the registration certificate is never made or looks like no effort ever has been made to apply. So in theory at least, an individual can be fined the sum of €2,539 as per the law that you can see here on screen for not possessing a yellow slip. However, after further investigation, it seems that there have been no recorded cases of anyone being fined to date. So aside from being a legality, you never know when it may come in handy. So while it cannot be used as a travel document, it's valid for use as personal identification. So as well, a yellow slip is needed to register and to vote in municipal and EU parliamentary elections. It's worth noting that the greater number of people on an electoral list, the more funding a municipality can get for services such as a local post office. So you will also require it in order to get an updated European Health Card or EHIC card. So when do you need to apply? You need to apply within 4 months of arriving in Cyprus. So even though you can wait up to 4 months, it's recommended to start the process sooner rather than later in case of unusually long wait times for appointments or any unseen delays with your application. You'll be asked to provide your yellow slip at other places, so if you haven't already, you'll need the yellow slip even to apply for a bank account in Cyprus. So it can take quite a while to get the application approved, and sometimes multiple applications to get it right. This is why we would recommend applying a little bit before the 4 months is over. So where to apply? The Civil Registry and Migration Department deal with all applications and appointments to establish new applications. So unfortunately, there is no way to get around visiting an office in person. Currently, there are no online portals or ways to apply over the internet. So each municipality on the island has staff, and they are generally friendly and will try to help you where possible. They speak both English and Greek as a minimum. So I've put on screen for you the contact details of where to apply of each of the offices here if you have any questions. So the working hours are listed from 8 a.m. until 12 p.m. Monday to Friday. However, the doors open earlier, usually around about 7:30 in the morning. So it's recommended to go as early as possible to ensure a place and reduce wait times. As appointment times are not given, generally it's a time slot, so you'll be told to come back, about 9:30 to 10, for instance, and then you will just take a ticket and have to wait until your number is called. So you can ask any questions by telephone, or alternatively emailing migration@crmd.moi.gov.cy for less urgent inquiries or any requests. So usually these telephone numbers, it's quite rare that somebody will answer or will be available to answer, which is why visiting the offices are so common, and usually it takes a few trips to go and get everything resolved. So to arrange an initial appointment, you'll need to visit your local immigration office in person. This is due to the receptionist having to see a valid and current passport or ID card from the applicant. So note here that someone can go on your behalf as long as they take some form of applicant identification. So if you're attending in person yourself, the receptionist will generally, or you can ask actually as well, will give you a list with all items required to take on the morning of your appointment. And appointments are usually made a week or two in advance. However, this depends on the time of year, the particular office. I would say that the Limassol and Nicosia municipalities are more busy than others. So you will be given an appointment date and an advisable slot time, but as I've said, no actual appointment time. So unfortunately, it is first come, first serve, and this is another reason to arrive earlier rather than later. And of course, later on in the morning, it will be busier, and it's not uncommon for you to be turned away at maybe about 11 o'clock. You'll be informed, maybe you will not be able to be seen that day, or you will not be able to create the appointment. So yeah, we would really recommend going early on as possible. So we will look in depth at all the required documentation in the next slide. So, however, even if there is one mistake on your application form or one piece of information missing, it will not be accepted and another appointment will have to be made. You will not be able to submit your application and then provide the missing piece of information at a later date or the next day, for instance. This includes any mistakes on the MEU1 application form. So ensure that you fill out the application using blue ink. There have been instances where people have been turned down for using black ink. It's better to write it in capitals, and if you make any mistakes, I would recommend starting a new form rather than, crossing it out, because if anything is unclear or even one letter is illegible, the application will be rescheduled for a later date and you'll be requested to bring a more clear, filled out version. So yeah, if everything is in order and everything is correct, you'll be given a date to collect it. So unfortunately, it's not sent to you, rather just a pickup date for collection. But once you've been approved and the application has been sent off successfully, actually picking up the form, you don't normally have to wait at all for this. So the Cyprus Yellowslip may be obtained for different purposes, including work, self-employment and retirement in Cyprus. So the documentation required is specific to the category that one is applying for, and we will discuss the different paperwork required for each in the next few slides. So what you can see on screen now refers to a typical application. So this is for an individual that is employed, that is not a dependent or family member, and that currently or intends to be employed by a Cyprus employer. So the completed MEU1 form. This form can be for multiple family members and is relatively straightforward to fill in. It will also need to be signed and stamped by your current employer, if applicable. The application forms can be downloaded from the website of the Ministry of Interior. You can request a hard copy from the Immigration Office, or if you leave your email in the chat box requesting, I can also send you the PDF to your email if you'd like. And as well, passport and a photocopy as well, or ID card. So they like to see the hard copy, but will also retain a photocopy for their records, so bring both. The tenancy agreement or contract of sale of a house. A marriage certificate, of course, only if you're married. 2 passport-sized photographs, an in-date letter from your employer confirming your employment contract, and this can be no longer than 3 months old, but I would recommend, for my application, I was rejected. I mean, this really, I believe, depends on the person that you're dealing with, but for me, my application was rejected the first time because the letter from my employer was actually over a month old, which was considered to be out of date. So really, as up to date as possible. And the Social Security certificate and recent receipt of payment contributions. So this is only for employed individuals and can be taken care of by your current employer. And the fee for application is €20 per individual. So after obtaining the Yellowslip, non-EU dependents, so family members or otherwise, become eligible to receive the pink slip, which is a similar document granting family members the right to reside and work in Cyprus. The non-EU spouse and children are granted the pink slip, which is a temporary and renewable document valid for 5 years. So it's slightly different from the Yellowslip. To obtain this document, family members must provide proof of the consistent relationship with the EU citizen. So this can be a rental agreement with both names. It can be purchasing a property with both names. Anything to show continued relationship. So if the primary applicant, Cyprus is quite a patriarchal society, so this is actually usually the husband or father of the family. So if they are already a citizen in an EU member country, it's really easy for the spouse, children or other potential dependents to obtain residency. The application process is the same, whether they're EU citizens or not. However, for non-EU citizens, also referred to as third-party nationals, some stricter regulations apply. So it's possible to apply for the whole family at the same time as the primary applicant, or it can be postponed or handled separately at a later stage. So family members that are not EU, so it's a completed application form. This is the MEU2 form. It can be acquired again at the immigration office upon booking appointment. I also have PDF of the MEU2 form. If you'd like it to be sent to your email, please again leave it in the chat box. So a valid passport and visas for all applicants, a document explaining the family dynamic or relationship if something is unclear, documentation of family relationship. So again, a marriage certificate or birth certificate will suffice here. It's important to note that if either of these are in a different language from English or Greek, it's required to translate them into either English or Greek. And if the primary applicant has already received his or her registration certificate, make sure to bring this as well. So for any dependents that are not spouse or children, you must bring proof of a serious medical condition that makes them completely dependent on the primary applicant. And again, 2 passport size photos for each applicant, and the fee is the same, 20 euros per applicant. So when your family are citizens in an economic European area or EU member state, the same rules apply for spouse and children of the primary applicant if they've already have citizenship in another EU EEA country. Again, make sure to bring proof of the relationship in the form of officially translated marriage license or any birth certificates of children in English or Greek, as well as other relevant documents. So this is again the completed application form, passport or ID, the passport photographs, and again, dependents that are not spouse or children must bring the proof of the medical condition. And if the primary applicant has already received the registration certificate, bring it. So if the purpose of residing in the Republic of Cyprus is self-employed activity, it's essentially the same as employed. So yeah, a valid passport. The difference here is that you have to provide proof that you are self-employed. And this can be in the form of a bank statement or a contract with any clients, for instance. This definitely is sufficient just to prove that you are self-employed. And of course, still it's important to show any contributions to Social Security. This is actually a little bit more difficult for you to do, as obviously your employer isn't going to take care of it on your behalf. And another important point is actually if you are self-employed, before moving to Cyprus, if you are going to open a business and provide services, it's recommended that applicants check whether a professional permit is necessary for the activity. And if it is, certificates and documents needed to verify qualifications must be provided. So any university degrees, anything like this is fine here. So if you are studying in Cyprus, you will still need to obtain the registration certificate. So if the purpose of residing in Cyprus is for studying at a private or public educational establishment accredited or financed by the Republic, including vocational training courses. These are all included under the umbrella of studying. So again, you can see it's generally the same, except you will have to provide proof of enrollment to study. So the university or and they will usually provide this for you. Just probably have to ask them to do so. And actually, proof of comprehensive health insurance cover, a declaration or other equivalent, as applicants may choose to assure they have sufficient resources for themselves and, if applicable, their family, in order not to become a burden on social assistance system throughout their period of residence. This could be in the form of, again, a bank statement or proof of income, essentially. So there are different documents required for all of the different kinds of people, self-employed, working, and also those in retirement. But if you are planning on not working, so not working isn't a problem in itself and will definitely not prevent you from living in Cyprus. However, again, you have to prove that you will not become a burden for the Cypriot economy, so namely the social and the health system. So job seekers can register and renew their application for employment at any district labour office, regardless of their place of residence. So upon registration, the EU citizens that register must present their identity passport, as well as prototypes or valid copies of diplomas or degrees, and even any certificates of professional exams successfully completed. Again, if in another language, they have to be officially translated to Greek or English. And additionally, if they are people who, because of special circumstances, require assistance beyond that normally given to find and retain employment, an example would be disabled or someone entitled to child benefit, for instance, must present the documented evidence for this. So if you are a job seeker, so you are not currently working but actively looking, you can visit the district labour offices, but you have to personally renew the application for employment as follows. So unemployed persons and those seeking a part-time job have to visit once a month. Persons seeking a better job is once every 3 months. And persons seeking employment with specific employer or at a specific location, a visit is required once every 2 months. So if you are retiring to Cyprus or just don't have any plans of working, still as well you have to apply for the registration certificate. The official website does not state that it's required to bring tenancy agreements or contracts of sale if a home has been bought in Cyprus. However, those who have gone through the residency process often say that they were asked to produce these documents when attending the appointment. And again, they still may ask to see the passport again. So there are differing accounts at what happens in specific places. So yeah, depending on the office and also the person that you see. So we'd recommend having everything that they could possibly ask for on hand, just so you don't encounter any problems or delays with your application. So again, for retired applicants, what to bring is all generally the same, except here that we would say that this has to be an adequate income from a legal source. So this can include work or income accrued outside of Cyprus. So this can be pension or any other means of income. And as well, what's different about retirees is that they also have to provide proof of funds in a bank. This can actually be an overseas bank as well. And as well, proof of comprehensive health insurance. For retired applicants, this is a requirement, and you will be asked to provide proof of this. And again, passport size photographs, and the fee is 20. So the great thing about the Yellowslip is that once you have managed to obtain it, the permit does not expire and is valid indefinitely. So of course, there is an application of permit residence, which any EU citizens wishing to reside in Cyprus for 5 years or longer. However, this only needs to be applied for after the 5-year mark and is generally a more lengthy process, with applications taking generally about a year to process. So this is definitely a much more long-term process. What about using an agent? It's a relatively small fee, but the application process is also something that you can easily handle yourself. But it's also fairly popular to get help from an agent that helps you with the details of the application. So they will usually speed up some of the processes, although it primarily is limiting the time spent queuing and waiting at the immigration office. It can take a few trips just to book the appointment, to attend the actual appointment and pick up the document. This is a minimum of 3 trips. However, the average number of visits is about 4 to 5 to have everything in order. We would also consider using an agent if you do not have good command of the English language. So as already discussed, the staff in the immigration offices speak Greek and English as a basic requirement, but it's worth noting here that they will not enlist a state's translator for completing the case. So that's something to consider if you or someone that you know doesn't have that good command of English. So agents are also experienced in handling the application process and ensure that all the documents are correct. So this is a service that Eltoma provides. Should you wish to find out more information, I will just put our contact details on screen here. Okay, so that concludes today's webinar about the Yellowslip requirements and application processes. So thank you so much for everyone attending and submitting questions and emails in the chat box. If you are about to apply for your Yellowslip, good luck. The process is definitely significantly easier than applying for the pink slip, for instance. Usually your employer will give you time off to attend appointments, as of course it is in their best interests as well that you are working legally. And again, if you'd like more information on anything mentioned in the presentation today, please don't hesitate to get in touch. So I would finally like to draw your attention to the expansion of our services portfolio into the Cyprus property market. So we have a number of unique properties on the market in Cyprus for investment opportunities. Should you wish to find out about any more of the properties on the screen, you can do so by entering your email address in the chat box on screen, and one of our property agents will revert to you shortly. Alternatively, you can visit www.eltoma-property.com. Okay, thank you again, and wishing you a nice rest of the day.